imagine in Boston or the East Coast, if I'm correct as well. Welcome to Calm. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75 W Radio, live on Umma Connected, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Unusually for this program, not that there is any topic that is out of, well, discussion for us. Every topic can be discussed here. But it's not usual that we go so political like we are going tonight. And it is one of those days where we do not have to apologize for that. Welcome. It's been a week and a very long week when it comes, especially to politics. This is a program that is a global community conversation, a lot of issues that affect people, especially in the diaspora. And this is one issue that I think tonight is going to be part of our conversation. A lot has been happening just in the last week. On the 5th of November, Americans came out in their millions to complete a process that had been started through postal voting, and they voted. For the first time, you have a Republican, Mr. Donald Trump, getting both the popular vote and the college vote, electoral college votes, and including even the swing states. Arizona, I think, did declare, that was last night, completing a process that had actually been awaited for so long. But building up to this particular election, there was a situation across the globe that has affected many. The war in Ukraine that started nearly coming to 3 years now, but much more painfully, the war in Gaza, where Israel has been embarking on a genocide, killing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. And then, as if not enough, the war has now crossed on a new front in Lebanon. Leave alone attacks, sporadic attacks in Yemen, and then in Syria, in Iraq, and very recently in Iran. But that's not the subject of our conversation tonight, although it has some bearing on it. The recent elections across both Europe and then in America has had an impact in terms of communities, migrant communities. In the United States, for example, for the first time, Muslims have come as a bloc, because normally in places like Michigan, it's been well known, it's predominantly Arab, communities, and they have been voting Democrats for a long time. This year, it was totally different. Although, I mean, there would be a few Muslims here and there who would vote Republican, but the majority would be voting Democrats. So for the first time, you have one predominantly Arab Muslim communities coming out not only to provide a protest vote against the Democrats, but coming out in huge numbers to throw their weight behind Donald Trump. While that could not have been enough alone to sort of give him the victory, it contributed quite significantly, especially as Muslim leaders, imams came out and said they were supporting Donald Trump and they were protesting or punishing the Democrats and Kamala Harris for her involvement in what is going on in Palestine and Lebanon. But as that wasn't enough, you've got a Latino vote, which had to be counted on very significantly. Again, while it has been, there and almost a given, many Latinos voting for the Democrats. Again, in huge numbers, they came out, and in huge numbers, they poured their votes on Donald Trump. Surprisingly, one of the reasons that were given was the fact that Donald Trump was promising to come and curb immigration. And you'd have thought that these being immigrants, probably the last thing they would have wanted to do is, well, get in the way of immigrants because they are there. Are they trying to block the chances for others? But there are other motivations coming in there. Suddenly, the Muslim vote, the Latino vote, the Black American vote, or yes, the Black American vote, suddenly, came to really bear fruit and, throw its weight behind a man that nobody thought could happen. In the United Kingdom, We are just still digesting how a Labour government that has received the least number of votes managed to still win the election and go ahead to become government. But beyond that, we are just in the second week since the Conservative Party, conservative as you hear the word, conservative to the core, racist sometimes, or oftentimes as referred to, ending up voting Kemi Badenoch, woman of Nigerian origin, becoming the first black to lead the Conservative Party. Of course, in opposition, but as politics goes, who knows? If we ended up with an election and she won, you could have probably the first British black prime minister. People have been taking into positions, and these positions are beginning to count. The only reason Muslims could get themselves together is because one, they had registered to vote and they used that democratic right to vote. The reason the Latinos did the same was for similar reasons. While for the older generation, we might be thinking and counting every other day of packing our bags and going back home, although from I think a week's conversation ago, it became clear that people like Hajat Sarah, oh, Sister Safina won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So even where you had the oldies, the elders, sort of planning to go back home, the likelihood that some are deciding to stay even now concretizes the fact that our children might have totally different ideas. In fact, you see, when we speak to people, local people here, white British and so on, white Americans and so on, the way you are speaking to them is as a foreigner. But when our children go to school, the young people that they are mixing with, their peers that they are mixing with in those classrooms, in those lecture rooms, in those play fields, they look at each other as just the same. Might be just the color, but they never feel like they belong elsewhere other than where they are. Now, that is quite interesting in case you missed that as a parent. Just know when these young people look at each other, they are looking at each other as the same. It's only when they knock on the door or they open the door coming back from school, coming back from uni, they enter the house. Then they become the Ugandans or the Kenyans or the Zimbabweans or Nigerians. But beyond that, once they get out, they are who they are with. Now, that means that, for example, for this generation, probably it's time now we start reflecting and seeing if we are going to have the influence that we have, if you're going to have the influence that we need to have to start influencing policy, to start influencing what happens around us, we must start partaking in local and national politics. Of course, it's easy to start local and then you grow all the way to the top. In some countries, it's better than in others, but somewhere, somehow, people have to start. The last time I was in the United States, we had a local sheriff who had come from the police department there in Boston, in Massachusetts. And he came in and said he was black, actually. He was, I think, the deputy sheriff. He comes in and says, it's time, we've had Ugandans, they are very good people as a community, they are very cooperative, they are law abiding, but we don't have any Ugandans in the police force. And he was almost sort of encouraging now these Ugandans who had lived there for all these years to start joining the forces because once you're there, you know what is happening there. Join the councils, be a councillor. Being a councillor means then you become part of the decision making. You decide the rates for the buses, the rates for the trains. You become part of the planning. You become part of the allocation of housing to people. The decision to take some people from one area and place them in another area, you become part of that. So tonight, I would like you, first of all, to sort of, discuss for us where you are, how you see this situation, and how you think we should make it better. Or should you even be worried? Because Donald Trump has hated Muslims, has hated Arabs. We knew that. We had that feeling. How comes all of a sudden he gets the Muslim vote? What has he said differently? What will he do differently that will convince all these thousands of Muslims that came out to vote for him? In the United Kingdom, we had a by-election, and just before the general election, we had a by-election in one of the areas in Rochdale, and people came out in their thousands to punish both the Labour Party for its, while it was in opposition, it was still supportive of what the conservative government was doing in Palestine. They came and voted the man who came talking for Palestine. And that made a very, very strong statement. The feeling was probably this was an idea that was now going to play out in the rest of the election. But of course, the turnout, first of all, for people who were frustrated, who didn't think they could change much, they never turned up to vote. And as a result, well, some of the places that had even been won, like Rochdale, suddenly were lost again. And you get Labour sweeping through, getting very minimal votes, and yet managing still to get into government. I think the importance now of this is, as Muslims now, how do you look at this? Get to the Netherlands, hardly 4 days, 5 days. Israeli hooligans came out in a march that had brought Israel against Ajax, and post march they start burning Palestinian flags. They cause havoc. The next moment, people took them on, and imagine what the news was reporting. It just went to show it was Israelis football fans who are being beaten up and roughed up in Amsterdam, trying to negate what had exactly happened. But that actually brought out into the fore again another reality. You look at France and how the nationalist parties they were almost about to take power. And this is a party that came and spoke against immigrants or immigration, spoke against Muslims openly. And they were just about to capture power. If it wasn't for the left and the center right deciding to combine forces to make sure they just averted the last minute situation. I didn't know that happened in politics, where people were begged to stand down so that now the extremist or the far right candidate would not make it. And they did that. So the vote of the immigrants is very crucial. I would like you to sort of give us an idea of where you are and how that plays. How do you see this future playing out? Should we worry? If we are not worrying, or if we are worrying, what can we do to mitigate this situation? We are in the middle of a situation where we cannot pretend not to be there. Now that we are there, in situations where we have come out and we have made a difference, does that energize our efforts to become part and parcel of the civil process? Sounds like a mouthful, but this is a conversation we're going to have. It does not have to be so stone crafted. We can just make it light. Looking at your own local situation, what is changing? Are you worried about this? Are you expecting much from Donald Trump now that he has won and suddenly he's saying how Muslims are very good, how they love peace, how they want peace? It's like they've never wanted the peace, but now they want it. I'd like to hear from you. Of course, this program is reliant on your expertise, on your experiences, because they make this program what it is. Without you, we would not be here. And I thank you. We do not take you for granted for coming on and being part of the conversation. Remember, if you've missed anything in the show, you can always catch up. Just go to youtube.com/, just look for Umma Connected, and you'll be able to look for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira, or facebook.com/75W Radio, just as you can go to www.75wradio.com, and you'll be able to just look for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. I'll open the microphone so that now we can start delving, and where best to start other than in the United States where everything has been happening. And Hajat Sarah, I've seen your message, well respected. I know you're there. You'll be listening in. Enjoy your shift. Hafsa, I'll come to you and putting you on the spot. First time coming to you just to get your own reflections. Hafsa, I hope you are there and you have. Hello, Hafsa, are you there? I just want to be sure baby duties are not taking over. Sister Hafsa, are you there? Okay, why don't I go to Mariam, Texas, and first of all get her feel as we get Hasfa coming in, because you are the people in the Americas and would like to hear from you in America to hear your own take. Hajat Mariam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Hey, today we decided to become very political, to engage in politics. But suddenly, Mr. Asfa is our American correspondent. Well, we'll hear from her, but then we have Texas first. And yes, Hajat Mariam, first of all, the election, did it go your way, or you are hoping that Kamala would win and suddenly we have Trump? No?
Bonna Sheikh twali wakati wa lwazi nejjinja
Ne musalawo okudda wa?
Allah gy'atutwala.
Nedda ne nga nti okakana kyabalirayo gye mwali mukutte wakati mu lwazi awo oba
Kyatulika kubanga
naam
twali tetumanyi ani wakuwa tuwa ono ali mu kutirimbula kati oba tuwa oli asuubiza okutirimbula nga ate ye ng'atandikira na wano kufa abali wano.
Allahu Akbar. Yes.
So, kyali kizibu nnyo naye generally ndowooza nti kiyama kyennyini kye kituuse kubanga ono gwe baasalira emisango n'abanga muzzi wa misango.
Yes.
Kubanga ensi yonna gwewadde.
Yes. Ate kati agenda kwesonyiwa kubanga etteeka limukkiriza nga pulezidenti asobola okugwa presidential pardon kati agenda kusooka kweweerawo pardoni.
Agenda kujeebwa n'abali abaziba emisango bonna abamugira nabo abasonyiwe ensi ate omuliro kubanga bajja kuvaayo n'obusungu bwabwe nga balina okukola revenge. Tusaba Allah atuwa obulungi.
Allahumma amin. Kati kino nga ku immigrant oba ng'omusiraamu naddala owulira perspective yo eri etya? Oli mweraliikirivu, olina ssuubi, kiki osuubira probably ekiyinza okuba nti kinaaba naawe dati kino kibaddewo?
Nze sirabawo ssuubi kubanga ono yennyini gwe baawadde ku gundi ye yasooka yawa Israel yakyusa embassy n'agiteeka
n'agiteeka e Jerusalem gye baali
nga kiba kikunyigiriza. Kaakati okuggyako akasuubi akatono akaliwo nti nno ab'Emichigan bamufoosinga okwogera nti nno ajja kukomya olutalo.
Yes.
Kati keeko kokka akaliwo naye ng'ate ye naye si mwesigwa.
Osobola okwekyusa anytime tosobola kumutrustinga his word.
Tosobola kwesiga kigambo kye. Asobola okukozesa essaawa yonna. Abaamu olw'okuba yakola ki? Ndowooza baba balina we bayinza omugambira nti twakuwa ng'otusuubizza kino. Naye ye tekimugaana kwekyusa anyway. Kati nze kye nali ntya nti bano batugoba babikkabikkako naye ye avaayo upfront nti nno ki tingenda kubazzaayo.
Abantu balina bweraliikirivu ki kati oluvannyuma lw'okuba nti alondeddwa ngamba bano abasuubira okuba nti basobola okuzzibwayo?
Abantu bo beeraliikirivu naye ate ekirala ekiriwo mubaamu ate byayogera ate n'atatuukiriza. Kaakati tuli mu ssaala nti nno aleme kukituukako ekyo. Naye ate yakikolako dda n'azzaayo abantu nga batuuse ku kisaawe wano okuggwa wano n'abazzaayo. Kaakati
So bwe kiba kyakolebwa kubanga mpulira already amaze okwapointinga ne gwapointinze nga naye gwe bayita migrant za atayagalira ddala banoonywa babuddamu agenda okubakasuka ebweru. Mere fact that he's setting that precedent means already atandise okubaako gy'atunula. Naye kati ng'abasiraamu vooti y'abasiraamu nga bw'ogiraba olowooza kuggwe yabadde n'amaanyi ki mu kalulu kano eddoboozi essiraamu?
eddoboozi essiraamu amaanyi gyabadde nalyo baabadde baagala kulaga bano abaliko, kubanga baagezaako okubasaba mu mirembe ne balema, protest ne zigaana nga tebakyusaamu. Noono omukyala yennyini eyabadde ayagala okujja baagezaako okwogera naye naddala awo e Michigan. Baali boogera naye bamubuulira grievances zaffe, n'abagamba mbu nno, n'alaga nti nno tabawuliriza. Yabagamba mbu mwagala njogere oba mwagala oli awangule, ng'alinga agamba nti nno oli bamutya nnyo. Naye nga nabano baagamba nti already twakombako dda ku myaka gy'ena, kati ena emirala tujja kugigumira. Naye olina okukola ki? Okutusuubiza kye twagala. Omukyala n'agaana okusuubiza kye twali twagala okuwulira nti ajja kukola ki? Ajja kugamba ku bali abali mu lutalo. Kati ne ndowooza nti nno impact gye kyakola yeeyo nti that's the voice. Nga oba ogaanye katugende n'oli gw'olowooza nti tumutya nnyo. So kati ndowooza bwe kiddamu gundi eddamu okuhappening elections, ndowooza nti bajja kukissa into consideration nti naffe tulina voice.
Kitegeeza ekyasobola okuzimbibwa kubanga wayinza okuba nga waliwo abaali beetiddetidde ne batavaayo nga balaba obuwanguzi buyinza obutabaawo, naye mere fact nti kyasobose ku luno means at least wabaddewo okuwa abantu amaanyi ne bamanya nti eddoboozi lyabwe lisobola okukola.
Eddoboozi lyabwe lisobola okukola.
Hajat Sarah Mukutu agambye nti for me the only sensible thing he said was about gender realignment or changing. He said that he's not going to allow children change their gender as no one can claim to be born in the wrong body. She loved that. Ekyo kugwe kyatambuddemuko kakukoledde oba kabadde ku byanfuna?
Ako kowe kali bulijjo tukalina nga tugaa nti bano tubawagira naye balinako ekyo. Naye nga sirowooza nti kinaakyusa kinene. Abantu bano be bamu. Omu akimukirira, omu akikolera under the table, omulala n'akikolera mu lwatu.
So are you saying that ne Trump naye likelihood werinti anaakikiriza nekigenda mu maaso mu nkukutu naye nga tikizze mu lwatu?
Bajja kusigalawo.
Olwaki? Olw'amaanyi ge balina oba ki? Ensensera gye bamaze okusenseramu? Why do you think so?
Already basensedde naye nga generally ensi ewa buli omu gundi ye right ye. Kati oyinza okugaa nti nno abaana abato tebaba bakyuse naye ng'ate bwe bakula bajja kwekyusa. So
bwaweza 17 or 18 we aba amaze okufuuka adult. Yes.
So kati nze ndaba buli kimu kati kiringa n'ekyo luno abaganda aba immigrant nti nabano bennyini abaliko tebatwagala naye bo batugobera ndatatebo nga babikabikako.
Tebaagala banoonyi ba bubuddamu kyogamba abasenze immigrants.
Nabo batuzzaayo. Mulimu n'egundi ezigamba nti nno oba bo bayinza n'okuba nga bazzaayo bangi okusinga naye bo bakikolera ndadatebo nga babiseeko.
Right.
So
yes.
Nze ndaba bonna be bamu.
Olina ssuubi ki mu myaka ena egino egijja?
Mu myaka ena sirinaayo ssuubi Sheikh.
Ogenze kusiba ngugu kuddayo Kyaddondo? So that's my question then. How are you going to survive the next 4 years? Weeteeseteese otya given nti essuubi ttono? Ogenda kwekweka, ogenda kusirika obeereyo olinde bulinzi giggweko? How are you looking to the 4 years?
The 4 years nja kubeerawo as a citizen.
Yes.
Naye nga at least nnumirirwa abatannafuna citizenship. Ababadde basuubira okujja. Naye nga tujja kubeerawo.
Inshallah. Hajati Mariam.
Nga tusaba Allah bukuumi bwa Allah bwe bugenda okutubeerako.
Amin.
Naye nga teri nnyo hope naye bagamba ekijja omanyi kinyaga bitono.
Kijja kunyaga bitono. Inshallah. Olinga agamba nti Trump temumusuubiramu bingi nnyo naye ng'ate abantu baamuyiiridde obululu. Okuba nti oyiira gw'otalinaamu ssuubi mpulira nakyo kirina kikiyira bulala.
Kati okubumuwa tebaabumuwadde nti bamwagala, baabumuwadde kukola statement.
But statement yabadde ng'erimu n'abantu obutalonda ne basigalayo busigazi n'omanya nti olina voter apathy. Kubanga nga wano e Bungereza ekyaliwo, Labour Party came to power but with very few votes. Like, honestly, mandate ya Labour right now, it's just unbelievable. Okuba nti yeri mu power ng'ate ne votes ze yafuna was just less than even what they got in opposition in 2019.
Eyo in fact yali gundi y'abayimamu baffe abaasooka. Bagamba bawe third party.
Yes.
Kubanga bano bombi already twabatestingako. Nga bonna babi.
Yes.
Naye lwakuba nti ate Michigan ku last minute bakola that move ey'okugenda n'oli.
Yes. Oh, actually, now finally, Sinakuta, do you think that was a good move by the Michigan voters?
Well, I wouldn't say. Kubanga nze saamuwa. Saamuwa naye.
Wa Jill Stein no.
Saamuwa naye.
Yes.
Simanyi. The fact nti no, they wanted to make a statement. Maybe it was
would you be supportive of the fact that they wanted to make a statement and they made the statement?
Sijja gamba nti nze nandikikoze. Naye the fact nti baakikola.
Yes.
Ate and the statement came out. Ngamba nti alhamdulillah. Maybe Allah yakikola bw'atyo.
Yes.
Maybe mu third party simanyi oba tebandikirabye. Maybe.
Okay. Hajati Mariam, barakallahu fikum. You've started us now into this deep conversation, and I'm sure even people elsewhere might have a say, especially considering the fact that, whatever implications now, the presidency of Trump will have an impact wherever you are, but also wherever you are, just how the immigrant vote is working. I think looking at Nathan Soksanyuka, looking at our children here, young people beginning to take or stand for political office. I think in London, we've got one councillor. I don't know if there's another one that is so far managed to break through, but we managed to get one councillor, a very young man, but looking promising. I mean, he might just be able to rise through the ranks slowly. Haji Isa Makumbi, simply because of the fact that he's looked at the local politics at a very, very close range. Later, I think, so that then we can put it into perspective. But allow me to go to the professor. Nuh. Bwana Nuh, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the conversation tonight. Hello, Bwana Nuh. It's dropped just as I was getting to him, I think. Yeah, his line just dropped as I was getting to him. As far I'm trying to get to you, Nyabo, I can't seem to be getting you. I hope you are there. As far, you can unmute yourself, please. Hello, Hasfa. Hasfa, Sekabuko, you've just joined us. Welcome to the conversation. Talking politics now and seeing the Muslim, the immigrant vote. I'm starting with Muslim, but widening it out to look at immigrants, so migrants. Ultimately, this is going to affect us, how we look at this, how we fit into the bigger picture, whether we can actually build up a strong block that can become influential. We are beginning to get into positions, like medical doctors, professionally. So we've got very senior accountants, we've got in the health service, we are pretty strong. So probably using those foundations, we might be able to start building the blocks that might lead us to probably having influence and starting to affect policy in our local places. So it is important, I think, that we start rethinking or bringing in this particular perspective. Isa Makumbi Sebo Kankurete, wanted to go to Nuh before coming to you, but I think it's appropriate that I bring you here. Well, one, I mean, you've lived your life, you've lived the times, you've lived in different places, and but now I'd like to tap your perspective, one on the American Trump win, but also now how it sits elsewhere in terms of where we are as immigrants and then as Muslims.
Yeah, I think.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, Democrats and the Labour took immigrants for granted that whatever is thrown at them comes the voting day, they will vote for you. This has been awakening for the Republican. For the Democrats.
The Democrats,
that
yeah.
Foreigners have to say in who goes to White House. The American politics has going to change. It will never be the same again. For foreigners, issues will become serious, and people take it seriously. The politician, they have to deal with it. They know that if you don't carry those people, however good you are, you lose the elections. When it has become the determining factor who goes to the White House, they are no longer taking Africans or Black Americans or Latinos for granted. Now that they've been there, they know the system. Now they want to have a fair cake, a fair bit of the cake. That is no more lip service. Lip service has come to an end. I'll talk much about Britain, where I lived for so long. I've seen the conservative extreme one, Margaret Thatcher's era, who was like Trump. He said, all foreigners, all the migrants have to go through the back, because they need, if you are going to make money, you need the immigrants to come in and do work cheaply. For them, they look at their business. They say one thing, when it comes to work, they're the opposite. So Labour has been in government for 90 days or 100 days. The rate of deportation is too high. They do it quietly. They don't say anything. They just bundle you up, put you in the van. Next day you are at Croydon, and then they put you with the plane, not even informing your relatives. So people that make me feel that they'll be hard done by the Republicans. They save those who are in. That's their mentality, the conservative and the Republican. Those who are in, they leave them in. But those who are coming in, that's where they become hard. Most of those who are in America, who are there, they want to be affected. There'll be some changes, but cosmetics showing up. That is talking to say that what I put in my manifesto.
They are promising to ship out up to 15 million at least.
Such as when she came in, they had a man they called Norman Tebbit, was his right hand man. He said, Pakistani, as soon as they land at airport, they are British. As soon as they get out of Heathrow, they become Pakistanis. He said, we don't need them. They have to go. He was made to be the Home Office Secretary of State for Internal Affairs. He had a business nearby in Streatham, had a factory. 70% of those people were foreigners and illegal immigrants. Home Office, immigration raided his factory. He was told that half of the staff are being deported. He told them to release them and never come near that business again. If one knows senior Streatham Vale, that's where it was. It was Norman Tebbit's business. So he said, I can say anything, but when it comes to my backyard, I think otherwise. I'm here to make money. And if I'm going to make money, I need cheap labor. And who can provide cheap labor? They are the immigrants. That's the mentality. He was asked, you've been advocating for massive expansion of the foreigners. He said, when I talk about the foreigners, those who are in, they're not foreigners. They have different color. They are British and they vote. But those who are coming in, those are immigrants. They have no right to vote, so they can't influence any politics. So I as if make the borders so tight, whereby anybody who comes in is deported, they won't be felt. Because when it comes to the ballot box, since they're not disturbed, those who are in, they won't feel it. When it comes to voting, they vote conservative. And when you look at the economic improvement, when conservative came in, any black man was driving a most expensive car or a new car, the police had to stop you and ask you where to get money. The only thing that came to their mind that were either selling drugs or you've been breaking people's homes. Such a changed the lifestyle of black people. Went into the right to buy policies that was targeting the black people or the foreigners. They couldn't get any money to buy houses, so they gave them free money. And since then, the political scene in Britain has changed. You find most of those blacks nowadays they are voting conservative. Why? Because their standard of living has gone up. They can get jobs. I was in Croydon. It was one of the labor. When it came to recruiting, you found they recruit few blacks. And blacks were not progressing in any administration. When the conservative came in, there was an increase. We got the first black chief executive in Lambeth. A black lady became the chief executive because they say we have to support them. They say they are here to stay. They had the mentality that if we don't give them the right thing, they start home watching television, go at the post office by then, get the paycheck, get their doll, and watch television. Which means that we, the whites, we were working for them, well, for them are just enjoying. So those things have to change. That's where they set up so many policies to educate blacks, encourage them to go to colleges, even in grammar schools and private schools, whereby they give them a grant from the state to have the best education. Because of that, you've seen the high progress of the black people into high offices. Labor has come in. What has done first? Take the money for the private schools, whereby you deny the black people have the right education. Most of those who are in power, who are whites, they can never go to local schools. They go to private schools. Why? Because they can afford it. By the which they will do the grant that's been given to the private schools, black people will not get any chance. That's why most of those who are coming in, like politicians, they've been to private schools. Who gave the opportunity? It was the conservative. If I had been the conservative, they wouldn't have gone. They made education easier. Come to grammar schools. They said, if you're living in an area, look at the catchment area. It became a comparison whereby you have to take black people in those schools. It's the conservative that opened up that link whereby black people used to go to grammar schools. And because of that, they've gone into university and done a better, good degrees. And whereby when they graduate, they get good jobs. And they talked about it.
Why has it been slow for African migrants to sort of go up the scale in comparison to their Asian compatriots, Asian colleagues, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Indian, Sri Lankan? Why has it been slow on the part of the blacks to sort of go up the ladder?
The thing is, if you want to go through the ladder, you have to join the political parties. People don't want to become members. They vote, but don't become conservative or Labour members. When it comes to electing the councillors and MPs, they're not there. They're not there. Unless they join the political scene. If you are interested in, join the Labour unions. or join the parties whereby you cast your vote to elect the one who's coming in. That's where the problem is. I can look at the African community, Uganda community that I know most. In where I'm living, you ask them to young people, why can't you join the parties? They vote Labour, but they don't join the political parties. They don't stand for councillors unless we change the political. But the Asians, wherever they are, they join the Labour parties, Conservative Party, and when it comes to voting, they vote themselves in. That's why I find there's a lot of politicians from that community. For us, say, I'm here, I'm comfortable, I'll do many hours, I don't care what is around, as long as I got a good job and get a good paycheck at the end of the day. That's the issue. You look at it now.
So what can we do? What can we do going forward? I mean, how do we encourage? Because what has been missing on the part of our Africans of Soboro getting involved in the politics? Because if you're saying we need to partake in their civic rights, what is missing? Is there money involved? Do we need to put money
we are not used to do something that is voluntary work. We hate doing voluntary work. You have the belief that if I do anything, you have to be paid. And if you join the political parties, you just have to go in the night, join those rallies, and they don't pay you. But the rewards are better. We have to get out of that man that anything I do has to be paid. And if we're going into politics, at the beginning, you're not paid. Either put in more money, for doing all those pamphlets, it's your money. For us, we don't want to spend any money. We are more interested in sending money to Uganda and get involved in Uganda politics, where we don't live, but where we are not interested in their politics. That's the issue. Unless you join the political parties, Labour, if you want to join political parties, go and join the political parties. I can give an example in South Croydon. A councillor was elected by 14 votes. 14. There was all of them, the only 14. She has been a councillor for so long, but that area there are black people around, but they are not interested in the politics. So that's the issue. For me, I was much involved in the politics of the UK. I went into finance. I've been to city. Even they ask me if I want to join, get some jobs in the city. Say I'm not in that field because I feel that if I go there, they make me run mad. But what they are doing there is very basic. They make it look like so sophisticated. When they talk about shares, dividend, blah blah, how they can see trend on the train, what's going in, they make it look very difficult. But it's just normal common sense. So they made anything that is simple, they made it very difficult using the terminology. When you talk about the dividends, you think that is just too much complicated. Dividend is different. You invest your money in something, when you make profit, supposed to get some money back.
So if you look at the future now for immigrant communities and for Muslim communities for that matter, so in general immigrants, but then Muslims in particular, looking at the current state now, the situation in the US, in UK, across Europe, where do you see us going? Do you think it will get better before it gets worse, or it will get worse before it gets better?
When I look at the Muslims community, we should know what to talk in the public and what to talk in a house, within the walls. If you think that you are more extreme, they hate you. They hate you. I've been telling my friends, why should I have big beards?
That is sunnah, Isa.
No, it is sunnah. But if you want to invest or improve the society, we need the money. Anything you are doing. If you're not getting any good job.
So what has the beard got to do with the money?
For them, their belief is you can have anything. Well, that's I've been told from childhood that anybody who has got beards is that it's just a protesting. That's how they look at it. It's one sign of protesting. Just have trim it so that it can be reasonable.
Isa, no, I'll beg to disagree on that. I've seen several white people who grow their beards, and it's not a problem. Why is it a problem when the Muslim is growing the beard? Even to the level of sunnah, they have seen many white people actually who grow their beard to that level, and they look fine as long as they are drunk. Why would it be a problem for a Muslim?
for them that because when they look at have been had look like Bin Laden, that has been for them they don't understand. When we have those people saying that this is another Bin Laden, that comes to their mind. It's true.
So if you had some advice for the immigrant and Muslim community living in the West, what sort of advice would you give them as a person who
We,
has lived in,
we
across?
should have two lives, for the public consumption and for religious consumption.
That is munaf. That is munafus.
But the thing is, when you say that's munaf, you see, but we have to live in the life that we are living, the community that we are living in. I'm in Uganda. You see, most of those people, why are they being detained, arrested? Why? When they look at those things, they think that is something you are. When they narrate, they say nobody with the beard, they're arrested. Why? It's just the mentality. It's the
Mr.
mentality.
Makumbi, and Professor Noor has just put in the in the chat room, and I'll get to him and try to explore the beard later on. But he says
But
beard care products is now a new niche industry.
No, look at the hijab in Kampala.
Mariam is just mentioned the hijab.
Yeah, look at the hijab. It has to be, they respect them. Even the Christian have started putting on the hijab. Because when you look at the women, they are not militant. So they say it's just
It looks like this has generated a couple of reactions, Issa, interestingly. Habiba says in Uganda, once arrested, they trim your beard. No says even the superstars since COVID, the beard is the new masculine look. I've seen actually, there's a whole idea which we have always done, like for all my years in the BBC. In November is always actually sort of the mustache month. You grow your answiri, almost wanting to put it to Ivan Corretta's style. JP Jaden says they add beard plus ethnicity plus religion, which then leads them to conclude extremism. And Hasfa says that's profiling. Yes, it's Movember, Hasfa. That's how we used to call it. That's what it is still called.
For me,
so Issa, you were on the advice just before we lose track of that. You're giving your advices for them to try to live a dual life. That which
dual life.
I say is kind of un-Islamic.
Not un-Islamic. For me, where I was, I worked in most of the European white dominant areas. I stood my ground. I know Friday I have to go to mosque, and they give me time for the mosque. I advocated for having the prayer room in the council. It was provided. Those who had come before me were militant. They couldn't get good anything. But when I convinced them that that is the basic rights of the Muslim to pray 5 times a day, and since they're working, they can't be excused to go out to the mosque. Just have to provide facility to offer their services, and they provided it. They did it, and became a common place that those areas designated for the white. And I told them, the executives, that in Ramadan, people are fasting, so they have to leave early. When I explained to them, they allow them to come early in the morning, come at 7 o'clock in the morning, do your work, 3 o'clock, go home. We have to learn to engage them, not to oppose, just engage. Explain.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Issa Makumbi, at 11 minutes past 9 o'clock. Well, I'm sure you've touched and opened up sort of a Pandora's box, if anything, and then that is going to help us now get into the detailed conversation. Thank you very much. I'm sure you open up now sort of a new area for conversation that we're going to explore more. Of course, if you've just joined us, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Managed to get Hasfa, so I'll go to her in the US. Again, just to sort of get a feel, the Donald Trump, and then looking forward in terms of where we are at and what we should be doing. First of all, just before coming to you, Issa Makumbi mentioned something that I found very interesting. In the United Kingdom, I think Muslims across the globe, actually, we have come like a chiddo. There's no going back. Despite the different approaches that have been used, it's amazing. In the United Kingdom now, it is difficult, it is rare to go on the motorway services and not find a prayer place. They've called it a sort of a multi-faith room, but in actual sense, you hardly ever see any others appearing there in the multi-faith room. The only thing is they have a very small room and they have put the chidori for getting wudu and prayer mat in the same place, so the water could easily just get on the prayer mats. Very limited space, but it is there. And the moment you start, you see the numbers of people flocking in there. Very soon they will be forced now to expand these spaces. I remember many years at the BBC when we started asking for a mosque, we pleaded so much to get a prayer place. And because, of course, with the BBC now, we were in the Bush House. Bush House, we had about 6,000 people that were entering that building every day. 6,000 people, like day and night. And so we asked for a place to pray, and then they made it an issue. You know, it has to be both for Christians and Muslims. And then they delivered now the place. They said now this is a multi-faith room. Muslims were 5 prayers. I mean, Fajr, because there are programs running around the BBC 24/7. So the room now started becoming so occupied by Muslims, and now they said, no, we have to provide now the Muslims with this. We get the Christians another room and the Buddhists in another room. Consequently, the Muslim area was just expanding by the day. People brought their prayer mats. We had the Arabic service opening, which came in with 400 staff. Suddenly, I mean, we were doing Jamas that were just unbelievable. Ended up having to do 2 Jumas in the BBC, something that was almost unforeseen. Then go to the Christian room. Nobody was turning up. Cobwebs were building up. Dust was getting there. They turned it into a baby changing room for parents who would come, like journalists who had children and would come with their babies. It became a baby changing room. And meanwhile, this was growing. This sort of started slowly. Then we go to the menu in the canteen. Halal became an issue. Look at how the halal revolution has sort of, come across many of these places. I have seen many white people coming, sort of saying this is halal and they want to go and eat halal as if halal was a particular thing. The revolution has been, quite amazing, but it has taken time, and it's gratitude to those people who came in and started the revolution slowly. These Asians, especially these Indians, Pakistanis, and Bengalis, took the burden on our behalf, and now we are coming to celebrate part of the achievements that they've been able to do. And then you get now the bigger populations like Nigerians, whenever they come into an area, they will just influence the place because they've got the numbers. As for salamu alaikum, that was me just ranting about.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sorry,
Yes.
but then I'm quite again, like I wasn't able to talk.
All right, no, that's all right. At least we managed to get back to you. And it's
Brother
nice, it's
Musab,
nicely balanced.
Mukadda Wafe Isa Makumbi, I'm like, how does he even talk about the beard being a problem in 2024?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at black men, like Noah has said, look at black men here, they just grow a beard. They don't have any problem. It's like we almost sort of profile each other. That's how I feel. Like you can't just say, I because of the beard, then you're going to be profiled. Like, Brother JP has said, Jaden, it is ethnicity, I guess it's religion, but a beard? I don't think so. That said, I lost, Mukaludo, I lost.
Were you for Kamala?
I lost.
Yes.
My daughters, this is their first year, my 2 college daughters, this was their first year voting.
Yes.
KK, they lost so bad. The next day, I spent an hour talking to each of them, just ranting and crying. Do they even know? Do they even know? It was such a disappointment.
So why were they supportive of Kamala? Is it because she was going to become the first black woman, like to become the president? Or
First
was
of
it
all,
the woman?
that too was one of the reasons why they supported her.
Yeah.
And I'm in a blue state, and predominantly most of these black people, most people, I should say, according to the statistics,
Mm-hmm.
we voted Kamala because, the left side, we are blue state. Now, yeah, the woman part of it, the pro-life and abortion rights, that was a major thing. And my daughter wants to be, she's studying education, early education, early childhood education. She wants to be a teacher. And when Trump was campaigning, he said, we'll do away with the Department of Education. So all those things put together were like, what the heck are we doing?
Yeah.
And then, of course, immigration was, it touches the heart of all of us. Even if they are born here, I mean, all of us to live are immigrants. But I was very disappointed. And then on top of that, they kept saying, do you vote for the other party, which was Jill Stein? Jill Stein is a Jewish woman.
Yes, but the only one speaking against Israel.
She was the only one speaking against Israel. And then a day before the election, she says she will always support Israel. And then those who were thinking, yes. And then those who are saying, okay, let's go for the other one who is not going to do anything. Then they're like, oh, I thought she was going to be, anti-Israel. And it's I think we are losing at the end of the day. The US, I think, Israel is another state, or US is being run by Israelites.
Yeah.
The APAC is mostly the Jewish lobby. It's mostly, the lobbyists, all of them are Jewish. They have the most money. Whether we vote Democrat, like Sister Mariam said, whether we vote Republican, either way, we are losing as Muslims. And then I was talking to a neighbor of mine. He's Indian, who came on the HBN1 visa.
Is that the green card?
No. These are professionals who are brought in to come and work here. Yes.
Yeah.
And he said during the Trump era, every time they had to renew their stay, they were doing it only every 3 months. And some of them ended up getting denied. And when the lefts were in, the Democrats were in, it was a renewal of every 2 years. And it touched the heart of it. It was really difficult for them because, one, they don't have a say, they cannot vote. But then they also rely on their fellow immigrants who are also saying, Aneda, we don't want illegal immigrants to be here. Then I also heard on our radio with the Spanish vote, some of the Spanish people were saying, oh, we are protesting all these immigrants who are being brought in right now because they're getting more services than for us who have been here. Like, some of them, like Haiti, the Haitians, who they accused of eating dogs and cats.
Yes.
Because of the unrest that is happening in Haiti, why would I want them to be sent back? To go where? To go where? And it's a tough pill, but we are scared. I can tell you we are scared.
Yes.
Then I also remember in his Trump era, there's a Tanzanian family that moved. They moved from here, Maryland. They were moving. I think they had moved to Austin. As soon as they moved, Austin or Texas is not a sanctuary city, so they could do their ICE raids. The immigrant, ICE is those that come and arrest and for the immigrants.
The raids, the immigration.
The raids, yes. Yeah. And as soon as they moved to Austin, which is a red state, which is not even which was a red state, that the first thing they, unfortunately, maybe they were just unfortunate, they ended up bomb quarter and they ended up being deported. So then there was raids on terminals for trains. Then there was raids on buses. Then there was raids everywhere. We are scared. And there's Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, who said we want to denaturalize. Although Brother Makumbi said, oh no, there's just talk. There's talk of George Bush when he was still a Republican president, and there's a talk of Trump. There's two Republicans are both different.
Yes.
yes. Oh, both these Republicans are both different. They are different. He said level the playing field in Israel to the Palestinians. Yagamba level the playing field. I tell Netanyahu level the playing field. Netanyahu came here during elections. He did not even see Biden. He did not see Kamala Harris. He went to see Trump.
Yeah.
And I can tell, according to what I've heard from Mehdi Hassan and all those, it was saying it was almost intentional for Bibi to keep bombing and bombing and bombing in order to affect our elections here. And he succeeded. And come Trump swearing in January 22nd, it's going to cease. And then he's going to say, I'm a hero. Then what? Still the lobbyists are going to be the one who are making decisions. The Senate is all Republican. We don't gain anything as Muslims. We are losing. We pay taxes, whether we want it or not. We pay taxes, and American taxes are the ones that are used to fund all these killings and wars. So Nememanga Siwawagida directly. Either way, as a taxpayer, my taxes are also being used to things that I don't agree with.
But Issa Makumbi raised an important point, which was immigrants, Africans, Muslims partaking into politics, beyond just the voting, because our participation thus far has been to go and vote for whoever has stood at the local level, getting even to the point of getting like senators in places like Minneapolis or Minnesota. You see how the Somalis have managed to, put themselves forward. In fact, I was in, oh God, where am I forgetting? Where I came to, subhanallah, what's the state? Oh dear. I was in a state and subhanallah, totally. Oh, yes, it is. Hey, subhanallah.
You said Massachusetts at first.
Huh?
No, I think he was here.
No. Which state was I in, Ya Rabbi, where the Somalis had actually taken on? It was
Minnesota?
Huh? Not Minnesota.
Not Minnesota.
No, not Minnesota, not Boston.
There is Ohio. Ohio also has so many Somalis.
No. Oh, subhanallah. How is it running? I went there and I led Juma prayers there. Oh, subhanallah. It's really run out of my head. I hope I'll be able to bring. But it's
in the
near
South, in the Midwest,
no, it's up. It's near the Canadian border.
Vermont?
Huh?
Were you Vermont?
No, not Vermont.
Seattle, Washington?
No.
Maine?
Maine, yes. That's the one I was looking for. It had disappeared totally. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, I was in Maine and I went there, there's a Somali guy who had become a head of a school. Then they stood for mayorship. They won the mayorship election. I just realized that the Somalis were sort of, as a community, as a migrant community, the way they were coming, they were sort of pushing the boundaries. But I realized that there was something about the character of the Somalis because of their country since 1991, after the removal of Siad Barre and his death, and then Somalia falling into turmoil for years, that it has never really got back to being what it should be. You realize that many Somalis became like Indians or Asians. Where they go, the likelihood of thinking that they will go back home is small, and therefore you find that wherever they go suddenly becomes home. Ugandans, on the other hand, for instance, whenever you go, you sort of still have the back feeling. Even after 40 years, you're still counting on going back home, failing to partake on where you are, and then failing even to participate in what is back home because you're not there, which is a kind of unfortunate. So I'm just wondering, Issa Makumbi raised this important issue of saying people being able to partake. One, we saw what the Muslim vote could do. So do you think going forward, I mean, that's the potential that Muslim vote will grow? But also, how does it fit into the immigrants? The Badugavu, the Ugandans, You see, like in Boston, where that deputy sheriff was telling us, you know, like Ugandans are not
Just give me
participating.
a minute. Sorry. In Maryland here, I speak to where I am. We've had a lot of Nigerians run politics. We had a sister. There's a lady, a Ugandan lady called Elizabeth. Oh, subhanallah, never be dating yet. But she was also running for councilman, I think, for the council, but it's in another county. I think we've had 2 Ugandans who have ran here in Maryland. I believe so. And I think Massachusetts had a councilwoman, Charlene, oh, subhanallah, she used to be called Charlene, Nedabide. But they're also trying, because Massachusetts had, I think, 1 or 2. But like Brother Issa said, we have to encourage them to be able to participate. But then, you know, our communities can be so funny. Someone told one of my daughters, Auntie, I don't even know why you're so upset about this, because voting is haram. And then the Islamicized voting. Subhanallah. The policies that happen in where you are affect you as a person. So you're just going to go and look on. Kumanga, if we don't participate, you see things like Eid or Kubenanga, they make it a holiday so kids don't go to school. You know, it took a lot for one of our own who are actually Muslims to be participating. Maybe not too many Ugandans, or maybe too many Africans. Naye Abasiram are actually participating. Some of them are doctors, some of them are surgeons. They are really participating, and I know for sure Muslims are not sitting back. We are doing our best. Whenever there is a council meeting and we have to vote, we always try to attend. We put the word out there. We have members, and some of our members in our community, Tina, Brother Karim, he always speak for come participate. So we're not sitting back. I'm scared of the future. Naye Allah jatukuuma nga bwe yatuyisamu in those 4 years, like mukulu wange said, Mariam, ne gino insha Allah tujja giyitamu. Abantu baffe bagenda kubeera nga baddayo mu biyumba where you don't have to travel like you were doing because you are scared, you know.
Right. Okay,
Allah
thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for that perspective. I think it widens our look in there. I want to bring No Eid here, but Issa Makumbi's hand is up, and maybe he has something to say to as far as before I let her go. Issa, please go ahead. Keep it sweet and short so that we can go to No.
The question I would like to ask the Americans.
Yes.
How did Trump make money? He made money from Trump. How become a millionaire?
He inherited millions from his father.
Hold on. He inherited the money, but he has done a lot to improve the Trump family affairs. He made money from renting accommodation to the immigrants, illegal immigrants. That's in the back of his head. They know that if you want to make money, you need some cheap labor, and who can afford to provide that service at that rate? They are immigrants. This is what they talk in the public and what they do. Those are 2 different things. Yes, so if I was in America, I would be worried. But if you read under, there are two stories for the public consumption and for reality. Those who are in America, they are safer. But those who are coming in, it will be extremely hard for them to come in.
Asfa, do you want to respond? And no, you can unmute your mic.
Yeah, I was just maybe let me just respond to that. Maybe first start with the clarification. How Trump made his money. One, he did not make money off renting out to immigrants. Trump actually has a case in New York where his father and Trump were discriminating against immigrants. They're not allowing them to rent their properties. That's one of the racist cases that Trump has.
Thank you.
He made his money on two avenues. One, he inherited money. But even one of the things he's been running on is pomp, flash, and the art of the deal. Anybody who's talked about real estate, the PJ Tour, he's always known himself for class, luxury, gold. So people have always thought that's what he's going to turn America into. And he's been running on that ticket. And some of the cases against him in New York was he over exaggerated his wealth to get loans. Trump does not own most of those buildings and hotels you see in Dubai and Turkey. Trump is a landlord who sells the franchise, the Trump franchise. So he sells you that, but he doesn't actually own the building. But he has used those assets to get big loans, and he's invested a lot in golf courses. So much in the in terms of renting. Actually, he only rented Gaddafi his golf course when Gaddafi never used to stay in hotels when he would come to the UN, and he would rent out the Trump golf course. That's where he would stay in his tent. So that's part of Trump and where he ran. But back to the US election, I was fortunate.
Brother Noah, I would also like to add that when he talked about deportation, Mar-a-Lago and all his hotels were using cheap labor of immigrants from South America.
Yeah.
Cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yes.
Because he could not afford to hire a regular American who would want to work, who works 8 hours. You have to give them a lunch break. You have to give them medical if they work certain hours. What he did, he had a lot of immigrant workers, low-paying immigrant workers. To be honest with you, it was even abuse. And what happened was, after he took office, they disappeared. They disappeared. Many of them that were there. I knew of someone who was staying in one of the, had a friend who was staying in the Trump Towers. They were affected because they didn't even have cleaners in the building because most of them had run away. So the question was, oh, were they all illegal immigrants? So why would they just run away? But then why would you even affect your labor? But that's it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
right,
yeah, but maybe in terms of the Trump impact, I happen to be.
No, 1 second. I just wanted to reassure Umar Kasule. I can see your hand, and we will come to you. We'll come to you. I can see. Yes, no, please go ahead. I just
yes. So I happen to be on the last election when Trump came into office for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to be working for the U.S. government, and I was part of the teams that were responsible for receiving what they call the landing teams. So you prepare 2 folders depending on who is coming to government. And at that time, Secretary Clinton was the Secretary of State, so we thought she was going to come. So her package was kind of small. But overnight, we all woke up to the news that Trump had been. But what does the Trump administration mean at home and overseas? I'll start there, then I'll give you the impact.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Trump had defunded World Health Organization towards stopping.
Yeah.
Any UN agency, he questions money going to the UN agencies, UNICEF. One that's going to be hit hard is the International Organization for Immigration. That is zeroed out. Mm-hmm. UNFPA, United Nations for Reproductive Health, their budget is going to be slashed about 80% from. But now what I realized on this election here, I know with all that he'd say, the rhetoric, the racism, Trump's charge sheet is almost similar to Sean PDD, but massaged in a way. But PDD is in jail and Trump is on the ballot and he made it. But what Americans were looking at now is what's the cost of eggs, what is left on my bank account. They care less now of international affairs and the wars and things that go on like that. I was surprised in my neighborhood. We have many people of Indian descent. Quite many in Ashburn because it's a tech area. After the election, all of them were high-fiving, congratulations. I'm like, wow, these guys did not vote. So even the Indian community did not vote for Harris. One, she does not identify with them and they are not happy. 2, she's interracial. Her dad is Black and Jamaican. Then the black brothers also did not vote Harris because the dad feels like that sidelined black father, hardly mentioned even on the campaign trail.
Yes.
Normally you'd see, and most of the stories are like, and now
My
this is from
mother.
the black community, yes.
My
My
mother,
mother, my
my mother.
mother, my mother.
Yes.
Dad
Yeah.
did not feature. Even if mom is deceased,
Yeah.
mom took center stage. So some of the the brothers, we call them the brothers, took
Mm.
offense of that. But what I really felt is how hard, and Hasfaz hinted on that, how hard it hit my daughters. I have a 16-year-old and an 8-year-old daughter. So when I told them in the morning that yes, they were like, what? So you could see she had really empowered the girls that you can accomplish anything, you can be on any stage. Before in the US, Oprah was the headline for any woman you aspire to be. Now they were looking at that Harris Trump to come on, but that did not happen.
So
However,
no, 1 second.
yes, sir.
Did the whole Palestinian issue not affect your daughters at all? Was it not an issue that was discussed in-house in terms of the impact this was
No,
doing?
typical American households, and depending on your rhetoric, they care less about international affairs. For the Muslim community, but then actually the Muslim community played in Trump's favor because they didn't show up to vote. Some people had even told us, go and write Save Palestine on the ballot and put it in, or you vote for the third party, the third option. So there was a low turnout on that case. On the question of immigration, there are states, all the agriculture states, Iowa, California, depend on migrant labor. There's a time during the first Trump presidency when they tried those mass deportations, and strawberries were rotting in the fields. Grapes were rotting in the fields, simply because these people come in and they're the ones who run that industry. So it's not necessarily it's going to be enforced. However, what we are going to see is student visas, people coming in on student visas. If you're skilled, coming in to do medicine, the Trump administration really pushes for that type of immigration because they kind of look at skills and the tax base. So that will definitely happen. But in terms of foreign aid and the vote also, there are two tickets where he really succeeded. The really conservative Catholic community in the Midwest, Iowa, Michigan, they have a lot of Catholic communities. They don't believe in reproductive health, family planning, abortion rights. So that vote, whether they were Democrat, they had to go for Trump. They are also not, there's a large constituency, the rural farmers who are anti-LGBT. They might not say it out right, but because Trump is that side leaning, that vote also was also in his constituency. So the results are not surprised.
Why is it about rural farmers? Is it mainly the ones who live in the countryside?
Yes, those rural farmers, they are not too urbanized. They are not on Twitter. They are not on TikTok, but they will listen to Fox News. They will watch Fox News.
Yeah.
They will watch the local news.
They'll be on local radio.
Yes, they will believe that people actually eat their cats when they hear that on the news. And when you hear some of his messaging, it's not targeted for the people in Atlanta, the people in DC, because people on Twitter, Facebook, they can validate some of these facts. But those people who listen to the news at 6 p.m., they will believe that people actually eat cats. So that vote was not a surprise to us. Yeah, but I know the beauty of it in terms of the US democracy, as Hasfaz said, you can lay low for 4 years and trust me, he will go. After the 4 years, he will go and he will not be back. So hold your horses, you lay low. It's not that he's going to be a live president. So that's what we're counting on for now. Thank you.
Until then, it's 4 years that we have to first live through. Thank you very much, No. Very brilliant submission there. Adding into the conversation, if you've just joined us, oh my God, what an interesting conversation. I'd like to hear from the European perspective as well. The Americans now have sort of laid out the picture. Noah had actually said he would touch on the international perspective. Well, he's spoken about the foreign aid and the UN and so on, but there's also the Middle East and, whether Trump can do anything there. Of course, I think that is, he still he's indebted to Sheldon Addison.
So let me touch on
yes.
Let me touch on that international piece. one of the largest key accounts for military hardware for the US is UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. So by them projecting Iran as an adversary, every F-15s that are procured, Saudi Arabia is going to buy, and they have the money. So it is in, and most of the military hardware companies are Republican companies. If you know Dick Cheney, you've heard of Dick Cheney and the Republicans.
Yes.
So the Republicans do not like war, but they are warmongers. So by threatening that, then UAE is going to buy as many jet fighters as they can.
But Saudi Arabia has normalized relations with Iran before normalizing with Israel. Would that
but
be
they tell you, like now, for instance, the Iron Dome, there's only one country that is using the Iron Dome that serves for missiles. That is Israel, right? Trust me, Dubai, Saudi Arabia also has those to protect them. They don't know when, but they tell you, hey, you might need these, and that's when they're going to buy them. So don't be surprised on that front that the Republicans do benefit from the revenues from military hardware than the Democratic says. And you can research about the companies owned by Dick Cheney, who went into Iraq, and the profits he made from that front.
Well, even the outgoing defense secretary might be going back to his position as an executive, as a director in one of the arms companies. Thank you very much. No, if you've just joined us, it's 9:45. Oh my God, and how time flies quickly. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, live on 75 W Radio, live on Umma, connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. And tonight we are just looking at the immigrant vote, the immigrant voice, rather, the Muslim voice internationally, following whatever is happening. You might be in the Netherlands, you might be elsewhere in Europe, you might be in the United States, and whatever is happening now will definitely have an impact on where we go from here. Umar Kasule, I come to you. Umar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, Umar, you can unmute yourself. Just click on the unmute button there. I've sent you a request to unmute. Okay. Yes, Umar.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
I mean,
sorry, I'm walking, but then, I hope you can hear me very well.
We can hear you loud and clear. Where are you joining us from?
Yeah, I'm in London, Kelburn.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, the Chingamba or Change and ekisookera ddala nti abasiraamu balina okwenyigira mu byobufuzi, balina okuparticipatinga, tebalina kulekera muntu kifo kyonna nti nno kubanga the moment tuparticipatinga oba ne tuyingira amagye, ne tuyingira bwa poliisi, ne tuyingira nti nno we are involved, oba okitegedde, awo tujja kubeera nga bwakati bali abasajja abayawudi kye bakola, abaana baabwe bayingira bwa poliisi, be bakulu ba poliisi, be bakulu b'amagye, oba okitegedde, bagira okulonda, be baliwo be bakola beesembeza. So kakati nze kye ŋŋamba mu America abasiraamu babeere ba Republican, abasiraamu babeere pata kye ya oba okitegedde, babeereyo kubanga kakati nga wookiraba bali abasajja abayawudi, either way they win, oba Republican gye bali, oba gundi gye bali. Kakati
wadde Bungereza ki ekiremesezza abasiraamu kwetya butasoma? Kubanga Uganda baatugamba butasoma naye kati zi universities zijuzizza. Wano ki ekiganya abasiraamu?
Kyembadde manyi nti no batukuba ekikono. Wano batukuba ekikono. Batukuba ekikono nti no kati tulaba ndi omusajja, waliwo n'omusajja yali omusekretale, yali oba muyindi oba mukiwa bamwitaani, yali wa conservative naye tebamukkiriza na kwesimba, bamu-eliminatingirawo mu bwangu kuba bamanyi nti no the moment ebamuwa gundi we wajja okutandikira. Omusajja ono tokyajukira yagaana yawaayo omuwala ono, yawaayo ono omuwala, omanyi ono omuwala yagenda esiri okulwana,
Yes. Bangladesh omwala.
Oyo yali minisita Kyoyo. Okyajjukira liisimayo bita Siddiq simanyi ani. Yali musiraamu omusajja oyo.
Sajid Javid.
Oyo. Yagala okwesimbawo ku bwa conservative tibamukkiriza tebamuwa na chance n'akatono.
Obusiraamu bwe omumanyi yabwegaana anywa ne ku mwenge kubanga bw'agenda mu pate obusiraamu bwe yabwegaana obutongole.
Naye ndowooza olaba Katonda kyamukola. Oba okitegedde kakati ekyamukulu wange oba muganda wange ekyayisa kyabadde agamba nti kino ebirevu bitujjamu no ekikulu kyaffe kyonna kwebeereramu oba okitegedde okumanya nti no muntu waffe tuwa abantu baffe the moment kuba kakati like in Uganda the moment ogamba nti towadde muntu onoowa omuntu omulala bali batuuka mu buyinza nga batandika kugamba abo tebatwagala nga bo beekuŋŋaanya naye nga mubadde eno mulwana mwenna naye olutuuka mu bufuzi agamba
Omar Kasule oli mu kutugamba tugende twebeereremu naye kati ku ssaawa zino nkulaba olabika either ova ku kyeyo oba okigendako. Saawa zino abantu abagenda okwesimbawo baba bakola kakuyege agenda ku miryango gy'abantu kubanga lwe bali yawaka n'akonkona ku luggi n'abayo akapapula kawaayo. Osobola okusuula shift awo n'ogenda okola ku voluntary oyo alimu okugaba obupapula obwo.
Ate lwaki kubanga kakati omanye ebintu byonna bibeera mu kuyiga lesson oba okitegedde. Nalaba luli omulangira Nakibinge ng'agamba bannange mukole ki mubeereemu kubanga if you don't participate you cannot win. Oba okitegedde you have to dare. Oba okitegedde buli kyoyagala nti kino kakati tulina opportunity kati batandise okutuwuliriza. Oba okitegedde kakati bayimamu bagamba abantu nno munnaye mwewandiise abantu mulonde abantu mwesimbewo the moment wendaba Kayira tosobola kumbuulira kirala nga ndabye Kayira nti owuyo yaliwo
tojja kundaba beera mugumu
anani nkubuulira perspective eyo kino is like nze wendaba owange kakali kiringa nti no nga ndabe bakulumbye bandabe Nakimera bamulumbye amanyabo nsooka kuba muduuyi nenjoka nkola ki nembuuza nti wange kiki ekibaddewo naye ng'oli mumaze koze eki kubanga oli manyi nti no si wange. Oba okitegedde kino ekyaffe kiri ntino tulina okubeera mu Labour tulina okubeera mu Conservative ne tusonga mbeere tubeera ku mwanjo.
Gaffe ekigendererwa kyakuba tunoonyayo omuddugavu ayitawo epate eyiseewo wonna tusigala tukyali atugenda wenna.
Basically tulina okubeera wa mirundi esatu nga tulina noono atagaza wakati alina okutagaza kuba kati bali abasajja kye bakola they are all over the place buli tebaluuzinga balinga kagundi kagweno kawe ne makati kaabwe
Barakallahu
tulina okubeeramu.
Amina.
Kyembadde ngamba salamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Barakallahu fikum. Sebwebali in your first time joiner and first time active. Actually, that's a very nice image. Ababa sobode now wherever you are, if you can just put on your video while speaking, I think it adds a bit of color. I'm sure Umar was a breath of fresh air from outside as we were listening in. Rema Mawia says now you have a conservative black woman. Yes, a Nigerian. And that could have been a Ugandan if we just take it up. So probably we have somewhere to start from. Another newbie here on the show, Aisha Nakaiwa, please, if you can come on and let's hear your take. What have we not done right? Chiche tusanyo kora to push ourselves. Make sure since we are here now, we stick in here. Aisha, assalamu alaikum. Hello, Aisha Nakaiwa. Aisha, you can unmute yourself. Hello, Aisha. Isma 75W Radio. Simanyo wo inachogamba sewo. Are you there? Please.
Wa
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Seeka omwami abadde ayogera nze yansinze n'okunzigya mu kamooli.
nga tutera kuvaayo omwana kasula akujje yes akutakuddewa
ebigambo bibadde ayogera binkutteko nnyo of recent nayina meeting n'abapoliisi.
Walina meeting n'abapoliisi?
Omusajja ali muyindi akola mu force emyaka 3. N'agamba ffe ekintu ekitulemesezza kwekwata. Golowooza bajja bakolera buli dakiika oba waliwo ajja okukolera ate tugenda nti complaininga. Kwetya kati ye ng'agamba nti it's high time tufuke sacrifice eri abaana baffe. Oyingire mu kintu, oyingire mu poliisi. Okole abantu ba community bamanye tulinayo omuntu bakubuuze ki ekigenda mu maaso. Kitambula kityango oyina nga mwine musobola okutandikira nga waliyo omuntu. Naye paka twetya buli muntu atya okusookayo. Abaasooseyo yeekweka tayagala mumanye kuba mujja gamba mbega. Ababega babatikke ebintu bwe bityo. Naye nga bwetujjeemu bintu bwe bityo tugenda kumalako mu nsi muno mwe tuli. Nga twetya ebifo byonna bwe biterego bagaana kuyingira oba oli mutuuze nga okkirizibwa okubeera mu nsi tosobola kugaana kuyingira wantu w'oyagala. Naye okwetya kususse bwe buzibu bwe tufuna kati. Nti emirimu gibeerawo ne babaga bannange you are welcome mujje muyingire nga police force kati bali kulutinga abantu. Naye tukubye ekigambo twogedde n'abantu buli gogamba agamba ntyayo kati tusobola kubeera ku mwanjo nga tutya. Bino byetwogera nti njagala tufune munnayuganda ng'ali bw'ati tekisoboka kuba abantu basine sponsorship nga yabwere noga nti omuntu asoma radio tubawadde scholarships 100 mufune abantu 100 bayingire police force babasomese babasasula nga si loan teri kusasula ndi omaze okusoma. Naye ne mukyogera mutya teri avaayo buli omu agamba biri bitya batya kati okwetiitiiro n'abaana bonna betuzadde bagenda kubeera batupaka.
No, actually, Isma, I think you bring up a very interesting bit. We are going to be having the police, someone from the Metropolitan Police. We are getting a program, a special program that we shall do sometime, inshallah, this year. Hopefully, we can find time for it quick enough. And we are going to bring the police here just to talk about the benefits, Zidiyo, that you can get through the training. We have been in discussions with the 75W Radio and the police over this particular program where they wanted to encourage. Panga, our representation in prisons is way too high as blacks and then Muslims increasingly. Naeno sanga atemu police studi yostumaina bigenda maso because if you get the clues omanya n'okumanya nti ebikwekweto bijja kufaanagana bwe bitu n'ofunako bw'otemya ku banno ne bamanya bwe batambulira si kumenya mateeka naye n'oba nti at least olinayo okutu you know what is going on there. I think that would be very, very important, Isma. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Gwe kululu kati kicho okozeewo kubanga osazeewo ogenda kuyingira poliisi weewaddeyo to be the sacrificial lamb.
Seeka already kati ndi sacrifice nti kati njigga nalaliso okuyigga kati emafunye sponsorship eri awo mba njigga njagala tweyongereko sijja kubeera omuuzekka nja twekwate bangi abalala bajje nze nga njigga ono ayingira wali nange nyingira tubenga
and we need ladies as well, girls.
Ate kati abo babeetaagira ddala okufaako obufi. Ojja n'ogenda gamba olina ne help weeri obuyambi weebuli obukola obugamba nti kuba kati baagala nnyo abantu abaddugavu bayingire mu kintu kino tulekera okukaaba nti racism mungi mu poliisi kati tolina kyogenda kulwanira nga ggwenyi toliiyo mulina okuba nga mulimu omuntu aliyo n'akugamba nti kino kiba bwe kiti kiri kiba bwe kiti. Naye obuzibu bulimu tukabira okabira amata gayiise nga togayina ogamba amata ga neighbor gayiise. Gula amata ogafumbe gayiike okaabe naye oba togaguze gafumba kuyiika kati oba okabira ki.
Isma lw'obudde mu kamooli ozooyo ekya barakallahu fikum leka ndabayo emikono ebiri wano quickly Isa Makumbi then Nuh. Actually ndowooza Nuh obadde ozze Isma wajjidde leka nzije then nzije wa Isa Makumbi akeka badde kawangaddeko. Go ahead Nuh.
Nyakubuuza wadde mpangalira mu America kati naye nawangerako Ebungereza nasomera Bungereza.
Yes.
Naye bwe twatuukanga okurenewinga visa oba eya student nga bw'ogenda kaddirisa n'osangako omuyindi oba omugwira ng'ate akkaluubiriza ne ku airport Heathrow wennyini
Yes.
Omuzungu n'atakubuuza bingi nnyo naye bwe kakutanga n'akubuuza awa mmeka z'okola pestabu mmeka naye ng'ate omuzungu akwanguyizaako osoma biki grade ziyimire zitya n'oyitawo.
Yes.
Naye bwe kakutanga nagendako e Liverpool n'engwa ku muyindi n'ambuuza buli kamu biiru awa mmeka z'okola lwaki wakola overtime wano. So olumu twesanga ng'ate naffe abagwira tuba tuyingidde mu kifo kino.
We fight
Batugamba
it.
bw'olinnya ku ddaala tolijjaawo omulala mutera oli eddaala naye ayitewo naye tulinamu abamu ng'ate bw'ayitawo ye eddaala yagala aligyewo bugi abe ng'asigaddewo yekka. So ke mbadde njagala okuyisaawo ako nako tukakoneka abafunyeko experience.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
I think, well, that is what Isma is doing already. He's coming. I got the agateo kuyiga bana agenda nabo.
Seeka kwekyo mbadde njagala kugamba omukulu avudde waggulu nti omuntu oyo mukimukoze ekyo aba ayagala mweyongere mubeere bangi. Mumulekeyo yekka naye alaba ali mu buzibu abayita temujja kati alina bakalubiriza nawe ogambe nti kale kanyigire nange aba ayagala.
Says even today Asians are like that in all places of power. Yes, they make our lives watuka yata yagala yefulo mukambo okusinga n'omuzungu. It can be quite annoying. Balinga yabafusa assistant. Umaruka sule ndaba ato mukono ogulemezaayo njagala kujjawo mudu ng'ekyayo kya then nzije wayisa makumbi again. We sort of I need to get to people who haven't spoken to our chance na watu waulize. Umaru genda mu maaso sebo.
Okay. Kanyogere mu mangu. Olwo kino kimu kye nayiga gundi. Kye nayiga ko President Museveni. Museveni kye yakola obeera mu buyinza olina okulayinga foundation y'abantu oba okitegedde.
Yes.
Abantu be bakuprotectinga oba okitegedde naye gwe olwobeerayo omu wekka obeera mangu nnyo okuswipinga okuba engwala n'ogweri kubanga tolina misingi tolina mpagi zikuwaniridde oli mu bbanga nga kitengejja.
Yes.
Oba okitegedde kali kye mbagamba nti no every time ogaa nti no oli mu kifo oba okitegedde weetoloze weetekeko ekikomera leeta abantu bakukuume mufune gundi naye gogaa nti sesembereza abantu wallahi bajje onoofuga otya tosobola kufuga ng'oli wekka olina okufuga ng'olina abantu bo era kyova olaba nti no oli omusajja Museveni atufuza emyaka 40 kubanga abantu be bamuliko okugundi ne mu America oba ne wano abana abasajja kyeva batufuga kubanga they are everywhere. Be bali mu poliisi be bali mu magye be bali ba kansala be ba minisita be ba kati onoomukola ki onoomugjawa so kakati mbadde nkugamba tuyingire mu magye kubanga this is the quickest way kwegamba okuyingira mu kintu tuyingire mu poliisi tuyingire tusonga embeere naye tunaddaawo ne twegira
Barakallahu fikum, Umar Sebo. Barakallahu fikum. Exactly 10 o'clock. And the program is just heating up. Oh my God. Isa Makumbi, I'll bring you and then go to Sheikh Buko, who is also on the program, on the show tonight. Isa Makumbi, keep it sweet and short, please, to get them mass. Hakabadeka kuocha.
Chingamba abantu bayingire mu trade bana policy recruit and sack the next day. Banya advertising emirimu blah blah. You join in.
I missed that, Isa. What are you saying? What's the point?
Chingamba bana policy recruiting abantu from ethnic minority to join the public service and the rest.
Yes.
The next day you are sacked. How are we going to protect those jobs? Join the trade union. If in the trade union, you meet the managers and you discuss. If anybody is under investigation, become part of the panel to serve the interest of the minorities. Yeah. But if if anybody, a black man does a small thing, is out, is sacked. Why? When he's under disciplinary, when it comes to the committee who are investigating those, it's quite dominated. Whatever it says, never heard of. But if you are there, you will defend those people and will stay in. If they start a workplace, you get the numbers. I've seen most cases when I was in Croydon. I was very stubborn. The rate of expansion of the blacks went down when I became very inactive unionist. On any panel where a black man was involved in a investigation, I was on table defending them.
Union, we fear unions because you have to contribute at you want to save every single coin. So you end up not joining the union.
There is no free lunch. If you want to, without the post that they have, recruit to tick the box that I took 40 people from ethnic community. The next day you sack them. Reason incompetent or not failing the probation. But if you're in a trade union, you sit on those panels to scrutinize everything and you change the white people. If you challenge them, they start taking them on. If we want to go in their place, we are there to stay. How are you going to stay in that place? By getting good jobs and decent jobs. Yeah. For us to keep ourselves in these hard jobs whereby we toil and get peanuts. Trade union on the labor front, go in the trade union, become member. You can sacrifice, they give you training, how to defend people. And look at all the policies. When it comes to recruiting, we used to be on the panel. When people are being interviewed, when they see a black face on the panel, they become confident because they know someone who looks like them. But if you go in the panel, you see what dominated, you are intimidated, and most of the time you end up failing. You find most of the black people have got the best qualification, but they don't get the jobs because we don't, how can I say, lobby or work if they work outside our community. Just get out of our community and lobby. If you lobby, they say, this man it looks like, they say, there's a problem, they say, it's different, but the mentality is ours. So you've won them up.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yeah. Thank you. Let me just allow other people to come in. Fantastic. Trade unions, make that a point. Join trade unions. I saw that in the BBC. I've seen people who have actually ended up with huge sums of compensation. And for a moment, you almost wish you are part of the trade union. Never miss an opportunity. That's one not to take away. Actually, if you're working professionally and you are not part of a trade union, I think it's time to just rethink that quickly. Rehma Mawia, Ajat Rehma, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll have you and then go to Sheikh Buko. Time is running really fast, but what an interesting program. Never saw this coming, and well, that's the beauty of conversations. Ajat Rehma, I'm coming to you. In the line of, the people who have got to places and how difficult sometimes they make our lives. Ajat Rehma. Ajat Rehma hasn't unmuted. Let me go to Sheikh Buko. Oh, Ajat Rehma is there. I had a voice coming through and then, okay, not yet unmuted. Ajat Rehma there? Okay. Ngende wa Sheikh Buko. Sheikh Buko, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
So thank you for joining the conversation. I'd like to hear your take so far. We are talking about immigrants, Muslims in the fast changing world and our place.
Yes, you are right. And in fact, if I'm to go by the previous speakers, thank you. Let me thank them so much for their contribution. And I almost agree with anyone who comes in and make her contribution. For me, I was pro-Trump for some reasons, and so many people never understood me why I was pro-Trump. Because for me, I liked him the way his openness. You get what you hear and what you see, rather than the Camila, who was talking different, trying to resolve the Palestinian issue. Instead, when they are just fueling it. But for Trump, he tells that Muslims, I don't love you, I don't like you, and you know that this guy doesn't like me. The same thing which brother Makombi said. Like this government, ever since came to power, it has deported so many to the tune of almost the previous regime in UK. The number has it deported. it defies the belief that in just few months, like 3 months or so, that have overpassed the number of deportation, especially the Nigerians and the Ghanaian West Africans. If they catch you, you can't survive, plus other whatever. So I like these talks because if you attend them, you get to know what is taking place from different spheres. But also we get to learn so many different things. For example, Brother Yisma talked about joining. I remember when I was still in the NHS, the things are so like private. I wouldn't feel comfortable disclosing them here. But that biasness, you cannot really help it. If you are on the, let's say, you are on the ward and a Muslim brother comes in, he doesn't have anything, you try to fast track everything for them. Yes. It's nature, it's natural. During Ramadan, I don't know how many people I helped you on the ward when you are like in charge or responsible for that, and you find some Muslim brothers of yours, even if not a black one, but the way you feel like the way your contribution you should do to help in one or the other, because you always know inside the information. Sometimes they don't know their rights. They don't know where, how to start, and this and that. Even if what they are entitled. Yes, some of them, they don't know what they entitled to.
Do you know what has just crossed my mind?
Yes.
And the person who knocked him came running, so worried, wanting to give the person money so that he could, like maybe take him to the hospital. And this person,
yes, yes.
He didn't want to be taken to hospital because that would expose him to issues. But because this person didn't know their right, whether you don't have papers, if you are injured, you need to be treated before you. And the person was just given £100.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Very, very true. So if we were in those positions, we tried in back home in Uganda in so many areas to influence decision making, and also underground, you do. Oh, we've been sidelined for so long, so let's do something for our ummah, for our community. It's very rare that you have to speak about these things, but whenever you are in position of that power and authority and influence, it's very, very difficult not to feel like you want to look after your own. You are in any way, shape, or form. So any addition to those areas, yes, we have those challenges as well. It's true. When you are going to immigration or this and that, and we are better off to go to a white than a black. But at the same time, when you are in there in deep water, deep problems, you'll find your own people just telling you what to do, or bringing you this, they bringing you extra information that may open up your eyes, which you may not know, this and that. So all in all, I really, really appreciate that if we were to make any difference, we have to be part and parcel of the system. There is no way you're gonna change anything when you are out. You're a spectator. You have to be part of. Yes, some system somehow eliminates other people. They use them and drop them, but there will be some who will stay, and those small ones that will stay, the number will keep increasing. Had it that conservative woman joined, we wouldn't have a conservative leader heading the conservative. Who would think about it this time? More of a woman, a black, a Nigerian. So it's really, really difficult. So if you want to make
Are you pushing,
difference,
Shebuko, you've had your children grow up in this country. Many of them now, well, several of them are sort of mature now. Are you encouraging them to partake at all in politics? At all,
Yes, of course, I talk, but it takes time to convince. You don't stop like a parent. You have to keep talking to them until when they see senses. Because even ourselves, when we were growing up, our parents used to tell us things that we used to think that doesn't make any sense. But now when you reflect and sit back and say, my dad was telling him about these people, my dad was telling him about this. This is what I think he meant, and you reflect back where you can do the changes, you do it.
Right.
But you don't just dodge and don't do anything and you start complaining. That's
Thank
what I
you very
could say.
much. Thank you very much, Sheikh Buko. Barakallahu fikum. Jaden, you seem to agree with the Buko. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Your voice sounds so low. I don't know if you've just been too quiet listening in.
Yes, I've been listening in, and most of what people said, Brother Noah, Hajima Kumbi, and now Sheikh Muko, it makes a lot of sense, and particularly what Sheikh Muko has been saying. You've got to be there to influence some of these things, whether you like it or not. But you cannot be there if you do not have the education and you do not have the knowledge. Because when most of us came from Africa, our focus was to make money. And we went into the easy jobs, the care jobs, which I did for many years, the warehouse jobs, the call center jobs. Now, those are positions where you are always in the background and you can't make those important decisions. But my eyes opened when I became a social worker and I started working with disadvantaged people. And because of my experience, I found myself, or I was given the role of working with the unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. So I worked with children from Sudan, from Eritrea, from Somalia, and all those places. And when you listen to their stories, you cannot but sympathize with their plight. And without actually arm twisting, you are seated on that table and the decisions that you make a big difference to the lives of those people. And with me being on that table, I was able to change the lives of people by making some important decisions, if I can put it that way. If I say it in Kiswahili, kupendelea wenzetu, you'll understand that. So whether somebody meets the criteria or not, but because I'm there, and this is somebody who has come from a background or an area where I know what has brought him. So some of those decisions are made based on that knowledge, not based on fact. And I see many of them in the streets where I live, and without acknowledging, we acknowledge each other the way Africans acknowledge themselves. You give a slight nod, and I tell him indirectly, I know what you did, and he says, thank you for what you did, that kind of thing. So it's important that we educate or advise our children to go into those positions where they can make responsibilities and decisions. That's the one point. The other point is about numbers, because we can influence decisions by the numbers that we have. Now, we people from Africa, from Asia, we've got the culture of numbers. We don't stop at one child, we stop at 2, 3, and if you're capable, 4, 5, and 6 children. Now, these numbers are what will propel us into those positions of leadership. If a brother or a sister happens to stand for councillorship or for MPs, now with the numbers behind them, it's possible to push them into that position of responsibility, as opposed to if we are few. Look at the position of Jews, for example. Their numbers, you'll never find a Jewish family with 1 or 2 children. They are multiple children. And they speak for themselves, they vote for each other, and they support each other. Now, this is the kind of area that we need to be going into. I know it may sound as pushing our mothers and sisters into taking that
into
extra
the labor ward.
Yeah, taking into
Yes.
that. But the decisions that their children or our children will make in the future will affect or will improve the whole generation. But I agree with what most of the brothers there have said about numbers, about being in the know, about being in the positions of responsibility and making those important decisions. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. And it does not have to be a political office only, Jaden, as you can say, because even being in those social services positions, being in the police, being, like wherever you can influence decisions, you are in a good place, because then that help comes in quite handy. If someone is going to go to a hospital and the midwife, is a black person, is a Muslim, is this, all of these combined, I think, sort of help. It brings a kind of closeness that you might otherwise not have had a chance to come across, I would imagine.
Yes, I agree very much with that, because even in early years, because Nalongo used to work as a classroom assistant, and whenever she would come home, she would say, "Oh, there was this child from our background who was not given that support," and I would always sit with him in the back of the class and teach him how to write and how to read. Now, that little influence, which no other person would give to a person of our kind. So she didn't realize at the time that she was influencing the future of that child by supporting them to read, supporting them with mathematics. So whichever role you are in, education, health, finance, IT, police, and so on, there's always somebody there who will help you, who will catch your eye. And somebody talked about the Indians. If there's an Indian in a position of responsibility, and I've seen that firsthand when I was working in the call center, and you can tell by their accent when they come in and request for a service and they hear our accent, they straight away ask for a manager, even when you can do that job. But they'll overlook you, they'll put you down, or they'll even create for you problems because they think you are there to sabotage their progress, which is not the case. We are in this thing together. We came from far together, and the more we help ourselves, the better we'll all benefit from the system.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, Jadine. 10 minutes to the end of the show, and what a show it has been. Oh my God. Quite interesting. I think a lot of takeaways tonight, things to think about. Person like Umar Kasule came all the way from the Kamori, and even Isma jumped out of Kamori to come and partake into the conversation, because we are trying to look at these changing times and what they actually mean for us, why it is really important for us to be a part into all systems. It just means actually even our education now has to be targeted towards several areas. We do not want to limit ourselves in one area. It might even be a garage. Imagine going to a garage and it's your MOT. The case is different. The case is really different. Once you see, ujja kumanya MOT ajja kugamba akosooka okatereeze before failing the vehicle. Mu it goes into the system and then you fail. The other person won't care. It's a rebooking, and you have to, either within 48, whatever, 7 days to do the test again. And that would affect, you can imagine, if it was a vehicle that you use for work, you wouldn't be able to do that sort of work. Now, those small, simple things, what looks like a simple thing, suddenly can become a life-changing aspect in hospitals, in washing bays. All of these things actually totally add up. Before you know it, it will be the difference between either success or failure. Oh, let me go to Aida. Aida S. Assalamu alaikum. And Aisha Nakayu as well has just disappeared. She's there, but I can't seem to get her. Aisha, I don't know if you're at work. I was trying to get to you. And Aida as well. Aida, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, Aida. Hello, Aida, are you there? Aida or Aisha? Oh, no luck. All right, just a quick reminder here, and I'll go to Mastura. I can't talk right now. That's Aida. Well noted. Oh, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Are you at work?
I'm not at work, but I was kind of busy, but I can talk a little bit.
Now I managed to get you out of Kamori. Very important topic, I'm sure, and you are listening in the background. You joined a bit deep into the conversation, but I'm sure you've managed to catch up with a bit of it, and you would have a view. We are looking at how, immigrants now can sort of, survive in the growing world. What's your take on tonight's topic and what you have heard so far?
My take is a good idea. The only thing that in my field, honestly, I don't know what's wrong with Uganda. I'm sorry.
What's your field? Is that a care or?
In the medical sector, kati tuyinza okuba ng'okola ne nurse najja, she's a Ugandan. Kati bimala mutabukako n'agamba, oli mwana w'eka, kozi kano kakola katya? Naye nga first yali tayagala kwogera naawe.
Yakusikiddeko empewo.
Yenna yeesika naye ng'owulira accent, nze abamumanyi omugamba oli otya nnyabo? I'm fine. Onzo kale. Kati bwabeerawo oba ekintu nga tamanyi bakikozesa, like mostly of them baja agency. Olumala nga gamba makozi wano bakola batya? Nga nange simanyi we bakikozesa. Kubanga yasoose kunneesikirako mpewo. Okitegeera so nga tubeera nga bambi. Tuba twagala tukwatagane. Era bwe ndaba nze omuntu nga weeka mpulira bulungi. Bw'aba azze kubanga always olaba abazungu bw'obeera nabo. Nga bannange kati waliwo omuwala atera okujja wa agency era bw'akulaba ganze nako oluzungu amatu ogera olweka. Okitegeera? Naye bwe tuteeyambeyambe ntutuze mu zino developed world, kale developed countries, tulina okweyambayamba so naffe tutwaleko ewaffe ebintu ebyo ebirungi. Ate na wano we tubeera kiba kiwa n'abaana baffe like example nti maama akola bw'ati. Nange ngenda kuyingira mu kino maama kyakola naye we tuneekwatakwata tetugenda kuvaayo. Naawe ogende nga HR aliko muddugavu Munnayuganda owulira otya? Kati olaba ono minisita yazzeko naga singa abadde Munnayuganda kyandibadde kirungi, kati Abanigeria be baliwo. Naye ffe twekwatakwata kyendabe ku ffe Abannayuganda tebaagala kuvaayo.
Nay, Uganda does. I think there is something to do with fear as well. I think we oftentimes lack in confidence. Nigerians have a way, their level of straightforwardness, nonsense in work, they will talk back to you. They are sort of aggressive in how they go about it. And that's not in our nature. So how do we try to compromise, try to get what we want, but without becoming Nigerian? Because like you
need to get out more.
Now?
You need to get out more. Like in seminars, conferences, n'olaba abantu we boogera otujja okuvaayo tuveemu kano ke baatukulizaamu akewaffe ak'okwetya. Nze recently nayina we nali nina kye njagala okukola naye nensirika naye nga nsobola okukikola kati omukazi n'aŋŋamba it's okay, you can do it. Olwamala nenkikola n'aŋŋamba obedda nkutunuulidde naye nga kubanga nali neetidde ogenze wala abazungu beereere nentandika okusirika kati omukazi kyava ajja n'aŋŋamba that's fine, you can do it. Kati nenkikola mpozi speech yannema okwogera kubanga abantu baali bangi nayogerako kitono neŋŋamba kyekyo neebaza bwebaza nenkola it was kind of like awards. Nenvaayo naye nga nawulira nga neetidde namaga nga siraba muddugavu ndaba beeru beereere neŋŋamba ya Rabbi. naye kwegamba tulina okwejjamu ekyo ndowooza kyatukuliramu kyewaffe naye kati abavuddeyokko tutandika okubeera nga tuvaayo.
Abaana bo bali batya boy? Are they confident? How do they feel going
Bali
forward?
confidence kubanga omu she's a prefect.
Yes.
Omulala she's actually ayina byakola presenting business gundi sectors, so bamutwalako mu ssomero erimu okwogera n'abaana.
Yeah.
She was all right. Era bo bagamba mami you need to speak. Naye nawo ekikulu ekibi kye balina ensonyi.
Batwalaza nnyaabwe.
Balina ensonyi naye nga they can speak kubanga omukulu yayogerakokko. Balina ensonyi naye nga tulina kuvaayo mpola mpola.
Thank you very, very much, Aida. Olwabadde ovuddemu ekigambo ky'obadde otusubizza. Barakallahu fikum. And well, as the show comes towards the end, now.
Nsonyiwa mbadde nsaba kuyisaawo kano.
Okay, go ahead.
As the government transitions, waliwo ebintu ebimu that happened before and seem to be is going to happen again. Katinga, Black history. When you see a state like Florida, basalawo okukyusa curriculum, not to include anything to do with things like slavery, but just, I want to say, white man education,
right,
where they negate completely the pre-existence of the ancestors, abajana, abadugavu, slavery, and all stuff like that. And I remember I had actually missed it. Naye, my daughter who studied education called it. It was Black History Month, and my daughter was in a school which is mostly white kids. She never ever mentioned about anything to do with Black history, which was so odd. And it was that what happened? Oh no, when I asked my teacher, said we're not even supposed to talk about it. And it was so odd, auntie, something like that is even happening. Kati, we need to go back, I guess, to be more vigilant, even in the schools, or what is being taught, or even advocate, especially for, maybe I should say it as Black identity, not to be kind of erased in the curriculum, like as though, almost never existed. Kubanga, as you know, America only likes a white man. That's why when the elections ended up, it's only you have to be white and you have to be a man in order to succeed. So Avazad, I guess we have to be extra vigilant with our kids' education and what they're putting into our kids' heads and white America. And then also when the election ended, many of them, and Adara Zoom, they were saying this was a victory for Christianity. A victory for Christianity means in some way or another trying to even push it into a public school system.
Yes.
To ignore the other races or the other sects.
Yeah.
And in Kogama too, we have to also keep standing up and advocating for stuff like that. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Very much noted. Thank you very much. And actually, I mean, I think part of the conversation, in terms of pushing, like parents now being able to partake in parents' evenings at schools, going there, checking the progress of your children. I know not everybody is as educated but when it comes to school and they just go through the topics that they are teaching your children, I think those are areas that we can actually, take interest and, make sure that we are on board. Somali, you see a Somali lady never went to school, I know any homework, but they go to school and they know what they want to say and they will say it. And it comes in handy because they know what they want to say and they will communicate it with the child translating sometimes, whether things are lost in translation, but at least they communicate what they want to do. And the impact of people who have been the sort of forerunners, I go back to 2008 when Obama first stood, as president of the United States of America. I remember sitting with my first son, my kid, results we are counting, we are all praying. He was so energized looking at Obama campaigning throughout. Of course, I mean, he became a disappointment in other areas, but at that moment in time, he provided an inspiration. The boy was meant to be going back to school the following morning, but then I allowed him to stay up longer than he would normally, like be up just to watch the election and see what happens. After that, he got the motivation. He went to school. He stood for school council. He ended up becoming head boy in his school, and that was quite something in a school where he was the first black student to be registered in the school, first black people. This was really, like something totally different. And then from there onwards, now the others have come picking up from that spirit. They want to be school counselors. Even our last born, 10-year-old Tawhida, she's on the school council, very outspoken. She got there and she will be able to speak. She stands there. Guadako, the twins, the girl was deputy head girl, stood up and managed to get a prayer place for students. The very first time it is happening at a school here, Lord Lawson, the very first time that was happening. This really was sort of coming in. And I think once we get our children empowered, but it's what they see, it's how we encourage them. We might not have had the opportunity to be in such places, but we should create a conducive, enabling environment that allows them to be able to thrive and see life in a different perspective. Our children oftentimes are actually much more confident than we are, and we just need to, be able to speak. Aisha, your message has been received, noted. Inshallah, there is a next time. Remember, the program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We've come to the end of the show. Very beautiful and fantastic contributions tonight. I thank you so much for your time, and actually, we do not take it for granted. Remember, if you missed anything in the show, you can actually catch up. Just go online, YouTube, look for Come, Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. Hajati Mariam Mulinga ina akakuocha.
Mbadde ngamba sister nyinza okuba nga ni mistaken naye nzijukira nga ye yakatunyumizaako kye babadde boogerako being in any sector noyambako nti oba baali mu ddwaliro nga bategekera omulwadde room n'agamba mwe don't worry okumuteerayo tipi oyo musiraamu tebakozesa tipi bakozesa mazzi n'agamba nedda tumukozesa. I think it was Sister Ida. I may be mistaken, but then those anti-anayogera n'akoogerako.
Yes.
Kenjagadde okujjayo nti
barakallahu fikum okalabe kagendeddemu nga kawerekera bamanyi tukozesa tishu kwanza mukono okugenda butereevu.
Don't worry about oyo kumuteerayo tipi musiraamu.
Yes. Barakallahu fikum. Aida ndooza akomyewo akagale kakamwokeza. Aida, go ahead. Mbadde ngenda nakusiibula. Waalaikum salaam. Akatipi be ka holding.
Nkuwaayiriza sister
Mariam ojjukira. Munnange ye bakola ebintu ebiri weird. Bwe balowooza nti no tuli basiraamu balowooza nze waliwo neyaŋŋamba. Temi oyina fox mu nnyumba yo ne mugo, what do you mean by that? Olw'okubanga nti tuliisa ngalo, that's part of sunnah. Kirina mu Quran.
Barakallahu fikum badai katubukese isma tumutanyuke. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Remember, you can catch up with the program. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We've been live on 75W Radio, live on Ummah Connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. You can catch up any of the programs you miss either on YouTube, on Facebook, and Zoom. Have a very good night and hope to see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you all for your time.